You are listening to the TV Obsessive podcast, brought to you by TVObsessive.com.
Hello and welcome back to episode 127 of the TV Obsessive podcast. My name is Ryan Kirksey, writer and contributor for TVObsessive.com, and joined once again by Cameron Crane, executive editor for the site. Before October ends, we should at least one time go to Derry. I think that's what we're going to do today.
Yeah, we're talking about the first episode of It. Welcome to Derry. I'm looking forward to our conversation. For people listening, I think it should be interesting. Ryan has extensive It background, and I don't. So hopefully that leads to an interesting conversation here in the latter part of the pod. People checked out the premiere of Welcome to Derry on Sunday. Recording on Tuesday here, October 28th. First, as per usual, we'll talk about what's been in the news. What else we've been watching this week? I don't have much. You watch any of the baseball, Ryan?
So, yes, I watched some baseball after Monday Night Football was over last night. Turned on the game. Okay, I'll watch a little bit of this until it ends. Fell asleep. Woke up literally 2.5 hours later on my couch, and the game was still going.
Still going. I did basically the same thing, except I didn't fall asleep. So, and what's funny about this is I don't really watch baseball. I'm not really a baseball guy.
Yeah.
Usually I pop in like when Cleveland's doing really good, like if they're in the World Series, I'll usually watch that. And otherwise not so much, but people, there's been some buzz about it, and I saw people talking about the game last night. It seemed like an exciting, good game, and so on and so forth. And so kind of similarly, I was watching the football and that ended, and I was like, well, I've kind of been enjoying watching sports. I'll put it
Yeah.
on the end of the baseball game. And it's fun how with baseball you don't know how long of a time commitment that is. I think when I turned it on, it was in the ninth inning. Um, and yeah, 18.
You
I
had a
mean, it
whole
was
nother game to go after you
yeah, it
turned
was
it
like I
on.
basically watched an entire baseball game, and I think it ended at like 2:30 in the morning. Um, and I'm like, why did I get myself into this? When it wasn't even like all that exciting at that point because no one scored any runs for those nine
No.
innings.
I- I've
Um,
been I've been to one of these games in 2005. I went to an Astros playoff game that went to 18 innings. The Astros tied it in the ninth, and no one scored again until the 18th inning. And yeah, I mean, that was worse because I had a rooting interest in it, and you're just sort of just nervousness in your stomach and the pit of your soul for 3 more hours just waiting for something to happen. And this was, I mean, must have been the same way for those who were cheering for either the Blue Jays or the Dodgers. When I woke up, it was in the 17th inning. And at that point, I'm just like rooting for chaos, like having to bring in the second baseman to pitch or something because they had run out of pitchers. But they eventually ended it in the
yeah.
18th.
Well, it's funny because I'm not really a baseball fan, but I guess I decided that I want the Blue Jays to win.
Yeah, yeah,
But
same.
going through all these extra innings, um, the Dodgers were always in the bottom of the inning, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
so
yes,
I started finding myself hoping for the Dodgers to score just so it'd be over. You know what I mean? I was like,
yes.
oh wait, no wait, I want the Blue Jays to win. I was like, well, if the Dodgers score, it'll be over.
That's right.
I don't know
Oh,
why I didn't just turn it off, but decided to get into that kind of collective experience of,
yes. Yeah. There were still people all over social media. I mean, just live tweeting this game. I mean, a lot of people stayed up for the end of this. I guess it wasn't too difficult if you're on the West Coast, but yeah, for you, man, I don't even know how.
well, I'm something of a night owl anyway, so I mean, it wasn't really pushing it too much along those lines. But yeah, anyway, I don't know if I'll watch more baseball or not. Like they're playing again today.
Yeah,
Why
they
don't they
turned
take
right back around and play in 18 hours. Yeah.
why aren't they taking days off? Why aren't they spreading it out? I
They
mean,
take days off on travel days in between cities, but they got three in a row in Los Angeles.
I see, I see. Yeah. Anyhow, other than that, nothing really new for me. I'm still watching the Lowdown week to week. Watching the Chair Company, although I'm gonna emphasize myself to watch Sunday's episode of that. What about you? Anything else that
Yeah, I'm an
watched
episode behind
recently?
on Chair Company. I'm happy to have a extensive and substantial conversation about Great British Baking Show whenever you're ready. But no, beyond that, I was preparing for and writing for this new series that I'll be covering. So yeah, it was a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah. And I'm watching the floor, you
Mm.
know. I do think the wrinkle that they added this season is kind of interesting. It's I don't think this is a spoiler, it's like a rule of the game now. You do recall like last season, I think it was, they added the thing where if you win three in a row, you can get a time boost.
Oh yes.
Well, they added another thing where it's the same. If you get three in a row, you can still get a time boost, or you could swap categories with someone, which
Oh,
is
that's
kind of
an
an
advantage.
interesting wrinkle. You can just like steal someone else's category.
Yeah.
So kind of interesting. I mean, I like the show. I like that show, and I again, I think that that wrinkle is interesting. But if they're going to keep trying to add new wrinkles to the game every season, it might get a little bit much. You know, it's like, come on, man, you don't
Exactly.
need. To, it's like Wheel of Fortune's been the same forever. You don't need. No, actually, that's not true. I realized. Do you remember when we were kids and Wheel of Fortune was like you had to use the prize points to like buy a furniture?
Yeah, you didn't just win something. You had to buy things that were on the stage or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, you can get this Maytag washing machine, you know, whatever it was. Anyhow, shifting to the news, we got a couple of things. Probably the thing I'm most excited about is that apparently David Chase is going to return to TV. This would be the creator of this The Sopranos, right? Um, and I guess it's going to be a limited series about MK Ultra. I'm not sure how I feel about the topic. I mean, it could be really compelling, obviously, but it's also like the MK Ultra stuff gets a little bit too close to the conspiracy theorist space at
Yeah.
times for me. I don't know. What do you think about this?
Well, it's funny you say that because I read this. We'll post this piece on Deadline. I read this. I was just like, put this straight into my veins, man. I'm all I'm all over this. The combination of subject matter, creator, HBO. Yeah, yes, let's do it.
Yeah, agreed. You know, and I have faith that it will be um, good, and I have no idea, you know, how far down the line it will be before this comes out. But
Right.
particularly if David Chase, you know, really has this idea and wants to return to TV for this idea because he hasn't made TV since The Sopranos.
I
The
was gonna
Sopranos has
say
been off the air for a while.
trying to do a quick search and did not look like he has done TV since then. So yeah, if that enough compels him enough to come back, then absolutely.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to that one. Also, just shortly before we got on, I saw here today that the BBC has confirmed that there will indeed be more Doctor Who. So people were kind of worried about this. I think we've talked about it on here before. Um, it looks like not until 2026. And it also looks like Disney is out. So this is important for people like me who are American or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know how we're going to see it at this point,
Right.
right?
And
The
so
BBC is going to make more, but I don't know how it's going to be distributed.
and what I was trying to read between the lines here, I think I understand there is nothing planned. But I mean, this is 14 months away, so there's nothing planned, Doctor Who related, Disney Plus or otherwise, between now and then. Correct?
Yeah, I guess not. I mean, if you recall, I think we talked about this a little bit before. I don't know how long ago, but it was like as the most recent season was ending, there seemed like there was real uncertainty about the future of the show.
Yeah.
And we're going to have, but I think part of that was with Disney Plus, you know, that now they're backing out. So it's going to be a weird kind of thing. And I wonder what they'll do with the season numbers too, because for some reason, when it went to Disney Plus, they decided to start over with season one, which
Yeah.
was just super confusing to everyone. Why'd you do that? So I think maybe a lot of the uncertainty was around Disney Plus, and so it's at least heartening that the BBC is saying no, we are going to make more. I think the first thing is going to be this Christmas special that Russell T Davies is going to make, but that's Christmas of 2026.
Exactly. Yeah.
So my read on this, you know, kind of reading between the lines here a little, is I think that what they're going to do is that Russell T Davies make this Christmas special in 2026, and I don't know if they'll introduce the new Doctor in that
Mm,
special. They almost have to, but they maybe don't.
yeah.
Um, and then it'll probably be a period of time after that before we get a new season and maybe a new showrunner. I don't
Yeah, I was
know.
going to say, it also sounds like, BBC will have it there, but for the US, they'll need to be a new distributor on this side, right?
Yeah, which I don't know. Maybe we'll just go back to BBC America. I think that still
Yeah.
exists, doesn't it?
I have no
Uh,
idea.
so weird kind of stuff going on there with the distribution, and I guess Disney doesn't believe it anymore, or I don't know. I mean, it's also kind of annoying as a Doctor Who fan. Even right now, as it stands, you've got the two latest seasons on Disney Plus, but the older stuff I think is still on HBO Max. So
Mm-hmm.
he's like, it's not even all in the same place.
Yeah.
Will it all become in the same place at some point in the future? Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's worse than that too, because I'm just talking about the 2005 series, right? The model.
Not the 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you go back to the older stuff, then that's not even, you got to go, I don't know, like to Tubi or something. So, um, anyhow, happy if we're going to get more Doctor Who. What else we got, Ryan?
Well, a couple things. I can't say that I don't believe you and I are frequent watchers of anything Taylor Sheridan related, but there is not much doubting the fact that he has a huge oversized impact on television these days.
Yeah.
He is signed with Paramount through 2028. He already has a new deal to go to NBC Universal for his properties, for his television shows, for things, stories that he comes up with. I mean, obviously Yellowstone, Tulsa King, Lioness, Mayor of Kingstown, all of these belong to him. So he's taking a big payday to go to Universal about 2.5 years from now.
Yeah, I saw this, and no, I haven't watched any of these shows at all ever. And I always feel like I don't know, does it make me a snob or something? It's weird because I feel like if I were to put one on, I would probably be entertained. And
Yeah,
it
yeah.
just for some reason has never compelled me.
My wife and I did watch the first season of Yellowstone, and yes, we were extremely entertained. I mean, it's a elevated soap opera with, I mean, just the cinematography in the background of where these places are shot is just beautiful. I mean, just looks wonderful. But yeah, just didn't, as we were prioritizing things that match schedules and watch things together, it just didn't rise up to the top after we
Yeah.
finished that first season.
Yeah, I mean it always, and again, I haven't seen the show, so I have no idea if this is really fair. But it always makes me think it might be kind of like reading Louis L'Amour novels. I don't know, did you ever
Mm.
read Louis L'Amour?
No, but I'm familiar with who that is.
It's just westerns, and they're fun and they're entertaining,
Yes.
and like you can pick up a Louis L'Amour novel and you just like speed right through it about these,
Right.
you know. But no one's going to say like this is Nobel Prize winning literature. You know what I mean? So I don't know. And again, I was like, I haven't even seen the shows, and then I feel like I make pretentious comments. But um, I'm sure I probably would be entertained if I put one on. Maybe I will at some point. Um, speaking of, that doesn't quite work. Speaking of someone at Paramount, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
there you go.
John Stewart apparently is working on a new Daily Show contract. Thoughts on this? He came back and he's continued doing it once a week, right? And then is
That's
that
right.
the idea that he'll just keep doing it once a week?
Yeah, that's how I read this piece, and it just reminds us that he came back in early 2024 and said he would stay through, I guess, December of 2025. Clearly, that's coming up soon. I think you and I talked at the time about how, yes, we needed some John Stewart in our life to go through the 2024 election. Now I feel like we need some John Stewart to get us through the midterms and all the things going to happen in 2026. So I think this is just, I don't see any impression that he's going to expand beyond one day a week, but yeah, the idea that he has resonated enough, coming back after 10 years and had enough of an impact. I think this is good for all sides, viewers, him, the Paramount at large. I think this is a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's felt to me that what they've done has worked pretty well. Um, they did not manage to suck me back into where I watch it every day, which had
Yeah,
been the
yeah.
case, say, 20
Nor
years
I.
ago.
Right.
Um, but pop in here or there, and the other hosts do well also. So, okay. It's kind of a weird plan because you would almost
Yeah,
expect them to want to elevate someone, but apparently none of the others feel like they are rising above to where you want to make it their show into the future.
correct. Correct. Yeah.
So I
I mean,
guess,
they have to be thinking succession planning, but you're right. There's just not been a sort of a natural fit there. I do wonder if there, details in the contract are, we want you to move to 2 days or take on some some specials that come up or certain things between now and the end of 2026. I was going back and thinking, you and I multiple times have had conversations about, oh, we want to go see what Stewart says or watch the piece where Stewart talks about this certain thing. You and I are clearly not the only people thinking that. So you have somebody that resonates that way. I just think that they're gonna find a way to make this work.
yeah, I think so. And I shouldn't worry about doing. There's just like some part of me in the back of my mind wonders how the other people working at the Daily Show feel about
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
The other people who do host sometimes and all of that, and I guess I just hope that they're all happy and getting along and not stewing, feeling like like the old tenured professor who refuses to retire,
Yeah, I
or
hear you.
something like that. But he was gone for a while and he came back. It's a weird situation in certain ways. Um, but anyway, rambling. Uh, I think I've said to you before though, when Jon Stewart did step away from the show, originally I kind of thought, oh yeah, that's the right decision. So it's sort of weird
Yeah,
that he stepped away and I thought that's the right decision. Now he's come back and I'm like, okay, I'm entertained, as he might ask me. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is there's part of me that feels like culturally there should be a successor. You know what I mean?
I mean, they
And
certainly tried. They've tried a couple different times and then went to this just sort of, different host model. They just have not found someone that's clicked. I mean, hard to find someone that will click the same way Jon Stewart has, but just struck out so far.
yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing I'm trying to say. It's not so much that well they should find someone else, and stop sticking with Jon Stewart, but that there hasn't really been another figure like this that has emerged culturally.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's like
Exactly.
for the most part we've still got all of the figures that we've had for 15, 20 years or something. There
Correct.
doesn't really feel like there's a fresh new voice. I don't know. Anyhow, that's enough. You ready to talk about it?
Yeah, really
About
looking
it.
forward to this.
What is it? All right. So, first episode of It Welcome to Derry came out the other day. We both watched it. We're going to talk about it here. Spoilers will be on the table, certainly for this episode. And then I think also for the films. Yeah.
I think that would be safe to say. We can't talk about one without the other.
Yeah. So who knows what might pop up here. Um, Anyway, this is your spoiler warning. We'll put a little bit of music here and be back with you in about 10 seconds.
Okay, we are back to talk about It. Welcome to Derry on HBO. This is the series premiere titled The Pilot. This series created by Andy and Barbara Muschietti. This episode written by Jason Fuchs and directed by Andy Muschietti. It's January 1962 in Derry, Maine, and Matty Clements is being chased out of a movie theater, and he asks a family to take him out of Derry. Family begins behaving strangely, and the woman gives birth to a mutant baby that attacks Matty. 4 months later, Major Leroy Hanlon and Captain Russo arrive at the Derry Air Force Base and immediately encounter some of the local racism. At night, Hanlon is ambushed by masked men who demand plans for the B-52 bomber, but he does not give them up and he is saved by Russo. Lily Bainbridge has a vision of Maddie singing a song and sees his bloody finger from her bathtub. Lily tells the vision to her friends Marge, Teddy, and Phil, but they do not believe her. Teddy, however, begins to believe after he has a vision of a human lampshade screaming at him after a conversation with his father. Lily, Teddy, Phil, and Phil's sister Susie search for information on Maddie's disappearance and reach out to Ronnie, who saw Maddie at the movie theater the night he disappeared. She shares that she's also heard voices coming from the sewers outside the movie theater, singing the same song as Maddie. The group goes back to the movie theater to watch The Music Man in search of answers, which is what Maddie was watching. And in the movie, they see him. He blames them for his disappearance before releasing that same mutant baby on everyone, which kills them all except Lily and Ronnie. Um, so
Yeah,
this is, I mean, clearly
good times.
prequel to the films. A lot happening here. All these characters are new to us and new to certainly the story. Um, we don't get very long with some of these characters, it seems, as we move into the next phase of this show. So, just general your thoughts and how you are absorbing this, having not much background about it.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed the episode, and should say again for people, right? If you're just listening to this part, coming in, basically, like I haven't seen the recent It films, and I've just got like vague childhood memories of the older It film, and I can't even really rely. I mean, that's just been it's one of those things. It's like, oh, I think I saw that when I was a kid, you know. So,
Right.
whereas Ryan's coming in with a much more, I don't know, encyclopedic knowledge. So hopefully, it's an interesting conversation. Um, Coming into it kind of cold. I thought it worked. I enjoyed it. I did think it was really interesting as I found myself thinking about how it is a prequel.
Mhm.
And one thing I wanted to ask you, which you already answered somewhat, is I don't know about. So these are all new characters. I guess that was the question. You already answered it.
Yeah, I mean, new characters in terms that we have not on screen seen them before. I mean, there are references to these characters and their families and their lineage throughout the history of Derry in the book, but on screen we have not seen these characters before. With one potential caveat, we'll get there.
Okay. All right. So I mean, well, and obviously, I mean, you could accept. I don't know if you're thinking of Pennywise. We haven't really seen Pennywise yet, though.
No, not
So,
thinking of Pennywise. No.
okay, so you're thinking of someone else. So I don't know. I mean, to flip it around on you. So for me, it was a matter of, okay, well, um, as an entry point to the story, I found, I guess I found what they did here interesting because certainly everyone knows this is a prequel, right?
Yeah.
And you can think about the implications of that a bit, and I'll say more on that in a moment. I meant to be posing a question to you now. What did you think of the episode as coming in as someone who has way more background fresh in your mind?
Yeah, I thought that apart from one sort of very interesting choice at the end, which I'll discuss in a second. What was very well done certainly was, I think, keeping in the tone of the films, the tone of sort of what they have been setting up through the course of this story and this lore and this history. Um, I I am curious as we go deeper into this. There were so many I don't know, Easter eggs, references, things to situations and other things that happen in the films and in the book. I was wondering, I mean, is it still can it land the same way as someone who hasn't seen those or not seen them recently to someone who has? And it sounds like I think that it can, but there are just a lot of references to, oh, this is going to tie in later. Oh, this makes sense as to how these people are connected. Oh, this is we're seeing this part of this town. This comes into play 27 years after this or 27 years after that. And so I think that the mark of a show like this is that both sides can enjoy it equally. And I think we both did. I was very, I don't know about confused, but intrigued by the choice to create this new losers club. In the movies and in the book, it's built around these childhood friends that identify themselves as the losers club. And so we sort of
Hmm.
built up a new version of that, the 1962 version, five of them, and then immediately by the end of this episode, looks like three of them are dead. And so clearly our story is going to go in a different direction. A new character is going to be introduced, but kind of was thinking, oh, we'll have to be following another group of kids, and maybe we'll still will, but several of them are dead at this point.
Yeah, I mean, this was actually the thing that I probably found the most interesting at the end of the day, because you're right, where and it's not just it. There's there's a very definite kind of trope to this, right? Group of kids get together to explore
Yeah.
strange happenings. I mean, like that's like the premise of Stranger Things, for example, right?
Right.
But Stranger Things itself is already being like super derivative in that being the premise of and so like how many things should we mention here? Um, and then it's like you've got the annoying little sister and all of this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
um and part of what I enjoyed, I think, was how they subverted our expectations with regard to those tropes, right? Because usually in this sort of story, yeah, it would be like, okay, this is the group of kids.
Yeah.
They've got plot armor. Basically, the annoying little sister ends up figuring something out to save the day down the line.
Right.
You know how that story goes. And so the fact that immediately here at the end of the first episode, they go, nope,
Yeah.
like we spent a lot of time with those two boys who are apparently dead now in this
Exactly.
episode.
And in the, in comparison to Stranger Things, that core group of teenagers has stayed throughout the entire series, and it's been built on and added on, and more people have come into the group. And then you're sort of thinking, okay, well, we know that there'll be other characters will be introduced. We know there's another family coming to town. We know that, this group is going to keep growing and growing. But no, we're knocked down to two, and maybe these will be the two that sort of start an investigation with a new group of people. But yeah, we just was not expecting that.
Well, and so this is the thing I thought I got to thinking about in relation to that with the status of the show as a prequel. And I wonder what you think about this because again, I haven't seen the recent films that have been made and all of that. But it seems sort of obvious to me that in a meaningful way, the good guys can't win here,
Okay.
right?
Yes, you're exactly right. So, and we're now full into what's going to happen in the movies, what happens in the book. The course of the movies, the first It movie is set largely in 1989 around a group of teenagers. That group of teenagers battles and severely wounds Pennywise, but he gets away. In the films, they come back 27 years later as 40-year-olds basically battle him again. This time we believe, no confirmation, but believe that he is dead. That means that when It Chapter 1, the movie starts, Pennywise is alive and well, meaning a lot of these people we're meeting in this show cannot be.
Right. So I'm really curious to see how that goes because there's something sort of novel, I think, about a TV series that's set up in such a way.
Yes.
Um, I mean, in my mind, the best prequel series I've ever seen is Better Call Saul.
Hmm.
And to a certain degree, you also knew that things weren't gonna, Saul wasn't gonna like win.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's not the same, right?
Yeah.
Because with this setup as a horror story, it seems like, well, okay, we got to know some kids in the first episode, and now some of them are dead, and then the show's just going to like cruelly kill more poor children or something like
Yeah.
that. So, what is the show going to be like? I mean,
Yeah. Now, part of the lore of Pennywise and this mystery of what it is and what it does and why it terrorizes is that when people leave Derry, there's something that happens that seems to make them forget about this. Okay, so you stay in Derry, you endure this stuff. If you survive it, a lot of people leave because like, oh my gosh, this place is horrible. I have to get out. And so when they leave, they forget much of this stuff. And there's a whole, I think, plot in the second movie about how they remember the things that have happened to them 27 years ago. But so yes, there's going to be a sense of a lot of these people in this show are going to die, and then maybe the others survive and get out of there and can't warn the people in the future that this is going to happen again because of whatever supernatural force that caused them to forget this thing.
Yeah. I was thinking about the kid's parents, so we've got Maddie first,
Mhm.
and there's indications here that he's got an abusive father. Right? We don't see his parents, right?
Right, right.
But the other kids, well, we don't see well, she's still alive, Lily. We get some background on what happened to her father and so on. But the ones who apparently die, Teddy, Phil, and
Susie.
Susie's is the little sister.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, presumably their parents are going to care about them being missing, or I mean, like, are their corpses going to be strewn around the theater, or is there
This is
an aspect of the mythology there that's going to be relevant?
Yeah, so this is a great question. I mean, it's certainly that has to come into play, right? We see a whole scene with Teddy's family, his the meal that they share, talking about his bar mitzvah coming up, his brother is there. So I mean, there's a whole family introduction to that. There's clearly a family that Phil and Susie are a part of. And what happens typically with Pennywise and these children is there is a sort of a sense of some of these harmful things happen to them in real life. There's also a metaphysical sense of stuff that happens to them, and then he takes them. And so mostly you're dealing with, and this is sort of the case with Maddie Clements. No one knows what happened. They're just dealing with a disappearance. So these
Yeah,
kids keep disappearing over and over and over again, and no one can explain why. And so, yeah, that's surely going to come into play here. I don't think that Pennywise is just leaving these body parts strewn on the theater. He has, if this happened in reality, he's taking them with him back to do the thing that he does, which, I won't necessarily talk about because that may come into play later.
but then is it relevant that Lily has Susie's hand?
I think so. I think
Yeah,
so. I think there's never been it's been a binary situation. With in the original story and in the book, Georgie, the little kid who chases the boat into the sewer, he's gone. There's no, even though Pennywise rips his arm off, he eats it. He doesn't like leave it in the street. And so there's
right.
never been a sense of, look, I can show you that something happened. Look at this thing. So that's a new wrinkle.
Interesting. Yeah. So I guess that's what I'm starting to imagine as we move forward, speculating a little bit, um, something about the parents getting involved, or I mean,
Yeah,
but like obviously the parents aren't going to believe that it's some supernatural being or whatever. It's like you
exactly.
saw a demon
Exactly.
baby, come on.
Yeah.
Thoughts about the demon baby, by the way. Is this and related to that, is this like a totally new thing for the show?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. I've never seen anything like this before. There was a big criticism about the second movie of how sort of unsatisfactory the CGI was with some of the monster things that they did. Kind of struck me as that. Is it an effective sort of manifestation of Pennywise or this evil that attacks them? Yeah, didn't to me look necessarily great. It is just an odd choice that this thing that terrorizes them is a demon mutant baby that comes out of this woman at the beginning.
Yeah, I didn't love that, honestly.
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't find the demon baby to be particularly scary. I mean, they hit you with some
right.
jump scares, obviously, which are just you have no choice
Yeah,
but to be like, ah. But
yeah.
in terms of the monster itself, I was going, it's a little cheesy.
Yeah. I mean, the thing
Um,
about Pennywise is it manifests itself as the thing that you are afraid of. Whatever you fear, it can become a version of that that just scares you to death almost.
yeah,
And so why it became that for Maddie, I'm not exactly sure. There's sort of a clue there that they are listening to the radio in the car and talking about this nuclear age they're entering and how it can mutate people and all this, and then it sort of manifests itself as that right at the beginning. But we have no sense that that's what Maddie is afraid of and why that's what attacks him. So I don't know.
yeah. Or is there any kind of backstory like Maddie has been neglected since his parents had another kid or
Yeah,
something?
yeah,
Like that would
yeah.
make sense, but I don't think we're told anything like that.
Nothing like that. No.
What about that family in the car who are they get increasingly creepy, right? And like meaningfully for me, they were scarier than the demon baby.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
what? how should I be reading this though? Like, are they real people, or to what extent are they even real people? Or like at first they're pretty normal, except for the weirdness of the idea that you're just going to let some random kid hitchhike to Portland.
Yeah,
That's not
yeah.
plausible. But other than that, they're mostly pretty normal, and then they get weird.
Yeah. So my understanding or my read on this, I could be wrong, but my read on this is, when Pennywise has you in his sights, when he is coming after you, he will make things happen, show you things, put things in front of you that you certainly think are real that are not. Oftentimes this is preceded by a red balloon that comes by.
Mm,
In this version, we saw, I think notably right before this car comes up, this bright red truck passes Maddie by as he's hitchhiking. And so that's sort of a tell that Pennywise is here. I took it as this was not reality, just for the simple fact that they're driving straight away from Derry, and all of a sudden they're coming straight back in. And so Pennywise has gotten a hold of this kid's mind and is doing these things to him and is able to kill him through
yeah.
that.
Okay. Yeah. I think that quote unquote makes sense. um, but
Yeah,
yeah, we have to read it along those lines because you're right. They are headed out of town, and then immediately they're coming back into town.
right.
Um, Paul Bunyan is Paul. I meant to look this up and double check. Is Paul Bunyan even real? Is Paul
I
Bunyan
don't,
real?
I think it's based on a myth or a legend of tall tale of sorts. I mean, Derry is not real, so it makes sense that Paul Bunyan necessarily is not real. Couldn't really come from Derry, so I don't think so.
Yeah. Some stuff's weird, like and I try not to be embarrassed when things come up, but I only recently learned that thunderbirds aren't real. Do you know that?
Oh,
Thunderbirds?
oh no.
It's a mythological creature. I was like, really? I thought thunderbirds were
Oh,
real. Okay. All right. It's just weird how, certain things uh discovering as an adult that I'm like, oh, okay. Or another one is for a long time I didn't realize that someone putting two fingers up could mean victory.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
I just thought it was a peace sign. So like I always thought
yeah.
Richard Nixon was going like peace out, which is wrong. He's not. He's
It
doing
is,
peace for
yes,
victory,
that is
accordingly.
correct. Yeah.
So I don't know. World is fascinating. Anyway, get back to welcome to Derry. What else do we have to talk about here? Oh, all the Air Force stuff, I guess, would be the big thing.
Yeah. So interestingly, I think this was sort of, I think I described this as sort of the B plot in this episode. I think this is going to become much more of the leading story as we get into the rest of the season. That's my prediction, at least. He has a family that's coming, which I believe that we know from, things we've seen before this episode, that there will be two kids. Um, there is, I think we have seen something where these kids meet up with Lily, her friend Marjorie, Ronnie, because that sort of forms our new group of kids that we're probably going to have. So, what this family is doing, what they are encountering, and then what Hanlon, who is a name from the movies and from the book, what Hanlon is doing and what the Air Force is doing there, I think is central to what's about to we see over these next 7 episodes.
Yeah, I mean that would make sense. You say it is sort of the B plot, but then also, yeah, I don't know. It feels like the B plot. But
Yeah. But
I was just thinking you got like the cold open and then we're to Hanlon. So it
right.
is set up as being pretty central. Um, you mentioned in your plot summary how he gets attacked in the middle of the night by guys in like gas masks. Um, I don't know what I think about that. Who are these guys? What are they up to? You've got theories?
Yeah. These aren't like, I mean, we kind of have to take some of the clues that we're given. They don't have Russian accents. They don't seem to, they have access to this material and these suits. I think I speculated in the piece that I wrote that this is like a loyalty test or a confidence test. You're got a new guy who's going to be charged with these details. You put him right through the, life or death situation. So maybe that's the case. There is another theory out there which I hesitate to bring up because it really could be a spoiler for the show potentially, as to why they did this to him. But it just goes to I think it's proof that Hanlon and his family are central to this, and what he's doing there with those plans and with this plane and why he is there is going to be extremely important, I think, to this story.
All right, so you're holding back on what would be like book spoilers.
Uh, One particular point from the book, which we do know about this character, which could, I think if some of the theories are correct out there, which could mean something significant for the plot going forward, yes.
All right, that's probably fair enough.
It has to
Um,
do with it has to do with his injury. He talked with his general about, the injury he suffered in Korea. We've
yeah,
seen this scar on his left cheek. And so it has to do with what happened to him and what have been the repercussions of that and what it's sort of who it's made him become. That could be a pretty significant piece of what's ahead.
I would guess that it's probably going to be along the lines of what you're withholding about. Um, I don't know. So okay, let's consider the possibility you mentioned that it was some kind of loyalty test or something.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I mean, like watching the scene, it's certainly possible,
Mhm.
but it would be really extreme,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, because they're like beating him with a lead pipe and stuff, I
That's
mean,
It's quite the initiation, yes.
yeah, it would be a bit extreme for it to be that kind of I don't know, feigned attack or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, there's one sense of, some rookie private comes into boot camp and you terrorize them. It's another thing to do this to a major who's quite an accomplished veteran.
yeah, there's another thing if you're like hitting them with a sock full of quarters or something. They've got like a lead pipe and guns.
Yeah, right.
I mean, this it definitely seems like, and they don't relent really. Um, it's if it were like a loyalty test, you'd almost expect at the end for them to be like, "Congratulations, you passed" or something. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't
Yeah.
know about that reading. Curious to see though what else it might be. There is a lot of stuff about Russians and so on and so forth. As you mentioned, it doesn't seem like these guys are Russians, at
All
least
right.
in terms of
Right.
their accents or what have you. Um, Everyone, well, at least the muckety mucks seem to think that nuclear war is imminent. And of course, in 1962, that would be in the air. And so, how does all of that
Yeah.
kind of factor in?
We are in the ramp up to the Cold War, Cuban Missile Crisis right around the corner. Yeah, so there is, yeah, heightened tension around that sort of, and they've referenced it so many times, starting from the radio when Maddie gets in the car to every scene in the barracks and at the base. That yeah, it's there for a reason.
Yeah, sure. Any thoughts about the Music Man and how that factor is that an Easter egg?
I think there's an interesting parallel there to this idea that the song that they keep using, this treble song they keep using, is sort of the sense of these terrible things permeating your society, sneaking in without you realizing it, both to Pennywise and what's he's doing, and this Russian Cold War fear, right? Of these things that are happening around us that we don't realize. Which I thought it was just an interesting song to sort of maybe tie those two things together a little bit.
Hmm.
Using words like swell and all this funny stuff that they reference in that song. So I don't know the Music Man necessarily, but just that song I think resonates sort of what they're trying to introduce here.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely thought it worked, and I also wondered about the racism and with what we've gotten so far. I guess I don't know what the comment I almost want to make is, so I just won't say that. But I did get to thinking, so Hanlon is going to live off base, right?
Yes,
Um,
yes.
would you expect that he and his family perhaps had any problems finding a house in Derry?
Let me just say, based on what we've seen already, what little we've seen in the trailer, I'll be shocked if there's not some systemic institutional racism everywhere that he goes and out throughout this town. As a matter of fact, somebody in a piece I read pointed out that on the Welcome to Derry sign, there's one of these like Legion of White supporters logos on that sign. And sort of a reference point of you're walking into something pretty bad here.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely expect more um, along those lines. And I guess what I'm still struggling to articulate is I'm not sure exactly how I even feel about how a superior officer handles it.
Mm,
Um, because it's like on the one hand to say, yeah, we're not going to put up with your underling being racist to you. You want to say
right.
like, oh, that's good, but on the other hand, it seems almost, I don't know, heavy-handed or something. Um,
Yeah, just to put that guy on latrine duty for a week, sure, you tell him you've punished him. I'm not going to dismiss the thought that this general might even be putting up with Hamlin or accepting Hamlin there because of how much they need him to do something in particular. Um, it's I think that certainly is there. I think there's made had this sort of interesting connection, with their backgrounds as to why they got in the military, and it seemed like they connected there. But I think there's some shady things that are going on here that may rise as high as that general who's in charge there.
yeah, I think so. And then the general's assistant or driver is also black and kind of gives Hanlon a look at a certain point.
Yes.
And I
So
recognize that
that's
actor. I think it's Chris Chalk, is that right?
Chris Chalk. Now, Chris Chalk plays a very, very important character here. He plays Dick Halloran. Dick Halloran is the man in The Shining who has the shining, the ability to see these certain things. And so we're now connecting the universes.
Oh,
Interestingly, he was the only military character in this whole episode that did not have a name on him. But you can clearly go look up who he is and what character he plays. So that is Dick Halloran, who has, whether they know it or not yet, he has the shining ability.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, so all they really give us, this is what I caught. Besides the fact that I recognize the actor, there
Mhm.
was something in that shot of like, oh, well, that guy's going to be important. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
And so that's interesting. That's interesting for
Yeah,
sure.
that's a major question for me is what do they know about him already versus what he is going to do or who he is going to be. I suppose I should have been labeled as a spoiler, but this has been, I mean, ever since they announced the cast, they put this name in the cast that this is who he was playing. So this has not been a secret necessarily. Um, but they are some connective tissue among this universe that's already starting here early.
Well, yeah. So I'm intrigued. I'll tell you, I'm intrigued. And now I'm in the weird spot, right? Of like, okay, well, do I go watch the films now?
Yeah.
Or do I stick with this show week to week without having
Yeah.
watched the films? It's going to be an interesting choice for me here.
I would be very curious, yeah, your perspective of watching this and then seeing, and then you get to layer onto it with the films and it sort of builds on it as opposed to let's go back and fill in some of the gaps from the films that maybe you were curious about.
It would probably be the most interesting thing to just continue with this series and then watch the films afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
and and then I mean, this is just speculation, but at the end of this series, whatever ends up happening, why is it never referenced in the two films? There's some things that are referenced or hinted at and that we might see this season, but we're it's not like we're talking about these characters in great detail when we go to the films.
Interesting. Let's see. Anything else we need to hit on? We didn't really talk about the lamp. Um, that was frightening. It was a
Yes,
good
it was.
effect.
Yes, it was.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Other things you want to
Yeah,
hit on here?
and just since you brought that up, that's a good representation of the manifestation of, oh, now Teddy is afraid of this. He's scared of that because his father's told him this story, and because he is scared of it, Pennywise can make it something that can terrorize him. So that's just a good, just sort of little. It may be a while before we see Pennywise in this series, quite frankly, and so we're going to see him in these ways probably for a few episodes.
Yeah. So then when Maddie shows up on the movie screen, to what extent do you read that as him versus a kind of um, illusion of him?
Certainly some kind of illusion because I believe that Maddie is dead. In most situations that we have seen in this story, or all situations, perhaps we've seen this story, the children are dead after
Yeah,
he finally gets them, and so he is able to use that in as he wishes. I actually think if I may have this right, when you see Maddie on the screen there, the two kids that are in the car when he gets picked up are next to him,
yeah.
right? So are these kids that have also come under his sort of his possession, but no, certainly that's sort of an illusion or a representation of him.
All right, that's what I thought. It's just weird.
Yeah.
There was an episode of Doctor Who in the most recent season that did something very similar in a way,
Mm,
right? Where it was, but I mean, this was like a god type being who was um possessing an animated cartoon character. This was the Alan Cumming
yeah.
episode,
Okay.
um, which was which is pretty good, but I think so meaningfully different from what's going on here. Yeah, this is more just illusory stuff going on, and yeah, man. So they introduced us to some kids who were pretty sympathetic characters, and they killed them off. Um, so I guess Lily is kind of the main character amongst the children.
I think so, and that she has a fascinating background just from what we know. Her father having this horrific accident. She has apparently spent time in Juniper Hill, which is a famous asylum in the Stephen King verse. She's been told to take her medication, presumably so
Hmm.
she doesn't have to go back there. There are quite a number of characters at that place that she could be or could potentially be introduced to. And so, yeah, what happens to her? Does she have to go back? How she plays a role in this? She could end up being amongst the kids, at least our main protagonist, I guess is the right word.
Yeah, yeah. She's sort of set up that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also Ronnie, although she's not in the episode nearly as much as the other
No,
kids.
no.
Um, so yeah, curious to see where this is going. Um, I do intend to keep up with it, I suppose. As far as the podcast goes, I think we are going to shift gears and cover Pluribus. Not sure how the timing works out, but I mean, it would be interesting if we can make it work to at least come back to Welcome to Derry at the end or something.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that'd be great. Sort of see where we went from where we started. That'd be great.
yeah. Anything else you want to say about this episode before we wrap up?
I think that's it, other than to note that HBO is throwing a little bit of a wrench into the second episode. The second episode will be released late Thursday night and early Friday morning so that it's on your screens for Halloween. At least on the streamer, it will air on the linear station still on Sunday night. But if you want to watch it on your streamer, it'll be available Friday when you wake up.
Right. HBO Max, which
HBO
used to be
Max.
called Max, which used to be called HBO Max. Like,
And then HBO
takes,
Go before that,
well, no. That's different.
yeah.
That's not the same thing. Anyway, um, yeah, and also say, Ryan is writing about this series week to week, episode to episode. You can find those articles on TVObscast.com. Check that out. We'll be on top of it there. Thanks as always for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please do leave us a good rating, review, all that good stuff. You follow the site on social media. If you search for TV Obsessive, you should be able to find us. And we'll be back. I guess it won't be for like a week and a half with the scheduling of things. Pluribus is coming to Apple TV on November 7th, and we're planning on covering that week to week. So hopefully you'll join us. It's a new show from Vince Gilligan starring Ray Seahorn. We're very excited about it. It's got an intriguing sci-fi premise and all of that. So hopefully it's as good as we think it will be.
Yeah, looking forward to that. We'll talk about it at some point whenever we can next week. And yeah, we'll see you next time for that.